Hello, everyone, and it is time again for another episode of The Gibson Show. And today I am joined by the Coach of Direwolves, Odin. Odin, how are you doing today?
Feeling great after qualifying to SI. Feeling great.
Yeah, massive congratulations, because you look at the teams that went through that bracket. First off, we had 11 teams in the APAC quals, which is a
Yeah.
little bit crazy when you look at the
Yeah.
other regions. But you got there ahead of the likes of Fnatic, you got there ahead of the likes of Fury. You guys are now going to your third tier 1 event this calendar year, or this competitive
Exactly.
year.
Oh, in total. Because
Yeah.
it was this year the first time we ever went, so yeah.
Yeah, it's been a pretty successful year, but every single story kind of has a beginning. And when I looked back at you and I looked back at your career, you started off playing at the tier 4 level, and from there you went on to become a coach.
Yeah. So I mean, I think when I was still underage, everyone
Mm-hmm.
wants to play some scrims, get to SI and all that things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like playing scrims with some random teams, I can't even remember who. And then I think around 2019, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken, I had to move to South Africa. And obviously then I couldn't like play in EU or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So then I joined a team here, called, oh, how was it called again? Momentum Mori. And with
Mm-hmm.
that, we won like the biggest local tournament. I think it was for like around 800 euros prize
Mm-hmm.
pool. And yeah, so I keep playing here a bit and there with this team. But there wasn't much going on in here. There's no official league. So it's like just random tournaments that keep popping up. And yeah, after a while, the biggest tournament came up. And let's say just before that, we had some problems with the team,
Mm-hmm.
which made us to lose. And I was like, just fuck this shit, if I can say it on stream.
Yeah.
And I just said, I don't want to play in here in South Africa anymore. I want to go big. So that's when
Yeah.
I decided to become a coach, because obviously I can't play because of the ping. So I was like, let's try coaching in tier 1.
So really it was a mix of location and circumstance that really led to you going to become a coach instead of a
Yeah.
player. So then
Yes.
the decision to go be a coach, was it something that you always thought you could do, or at the start was it something you just thought, I want to be involved with tier 1, but because of where I'm living, there's not many options? So did you kind of fall into coaching, or was it like actively, yeah, I think that I can coach up a team to compete at the highest level?
I think because I was already like technically coaching our team, even though I was a player, I like took over the roles of doing the strats and doing the reviews. So I think I already kind of knew I could become a coach. And as there was no other option, I said, let's just try it and see how far it can go.
Mhm. So from there, you went on to getting a gig in the APAC region. So this is way back
Yes,
before Direwolves picked up the team. You got yourself the
yes,
roster, and it was, I think, a tough start in the region. It wasn't bad. You got a couple of fourth place finishes, but you weren't really competing to be at the top. But then in the space of 18 months, you managed to qualify for your first major tournament, the first ever
yes.
major tournament for a lot of the guys on the team. Talk me through what it was like in the early stages, picking up that team, and then actually molding them to play the type of Siege that you wanted them to play as your coach, and then actually competing in the APAC region.
So when I joined the team, it was like really chaotic. There was no like structure in the practice. It was basically just scrimming,
Mm-hmm.
no reviews, no real strats. It was just scrimming and see how it goes. And the first stage, I kind of helped them prepare for the upcoming matches. I wasn't really like a full coach at that moment. It was like just half-half. They weren't really trusting me. I didn't have the trust yet in fully. But then after stage 1, they started to really trust me, and that's when I could like, let's say, implement more of my thoughts into the
Mm-hmm.
team. And during that time, we did some changes. We, let's say, fell off from our previous performance. I think we were last or 7th
Mm-hmm.
in that stage. And then that stage was kind of working out what do we need to change, what is working out. And then in stage 3, we could actually like do our proper performance for the first time with my thoughts in mind and the thoughts of the team. And I think, yeah, stage 3 was really the first time when everything we wanted to do was kind of working out. And yeah, and that's when we managed to beat some good teams at that moment, like IG, and then Damwon Kia for the, I think, Mexico or Sweden major. And yeah, we were quite kind of close on qualifying itself, but there were still some things we had to fix.
Yeah, so then looking, fast forwarding then another month or two, you did eventually qualify for your first ever major event. And that, of course, was the Charlotte Major, where when you look back, it was the first major with a crowd in, a couple of years. We had the venue and we had that little period of time where there was, I suppose you would call it, visa panic. A lot of teams panicking, trying to get visas last minute, trying to get over to the venue. Going over to the event, what were the expectations? Because it was your first ever event at that level. APAC had seen Damwon Kia do pretty well at the previous invitational, but what were your ambitions or your goals and expectations as a coach going into that event in Charlotte?
I mean, we had no real expectations. We just wanted to see how international Siege is. Like everyone says, like all the APAC coaches were like, yeah, if you go international, it's gonna change your view on the game. So we couldn't really know what to expect. We just knew we wanted to try our best and hopefully make playoffs. That's like our primary goal at that point. Yeah, we obviously didn't manage to do it, but I think we didn't really have. Our primary goal was actually learn and improve, so we can go to a next major and improve there too.
Yeah, and then when you were at the major, what did you actually learn about the team international siege? Like, what were the big takeaways for you when you left that event?
So many things, but I think what we really learned is how our team needs to change. Like, what aspects from our team are great. Like, what aspects can we keep using and are working internationally, and what aspects we have to change. We had some role changes. I think one thing we learned a lot is using drones to find free space. That's something other teams abuse against us, so we try to learn that from them. And then, it's basically everything, like the meta, how it works there. Like, it's just so complicated to explain. But yeah. So I think overall the view on how Siege is played internationally, which is a much more consistent and thought out Siege. In APAC, it's much more random. Like you walk in somewhere and hope it's clear. If it's clear, then you probably get a 3K. If it's not, then you die and lose a round. And what we learned in international Siege is they find the spots that are clear. They try to find those openings, and that's one of the main things we learned.
So right, then I'm going to ask about the other coaches. So when you go to an event like that too, I'm sure you want to talk to all the people because a lot of the best coaches in the world are at the same place. Did you at those events after teams are eliminated or after games? Did the coaches have these conversations with each other? Like, I'm sure for you there was a lot of congratulations. Guys saying well done on being here. But do coaches pick each other's brains about things? Was there any sit down conversation that you had with anybody in particular that kind of really left an impact with you?
So from my experience, I didn't talk to many coaches, really intensive talks. I just talked with the analyst from BDS because, yeah, we shared a boot camp location, in a internet cafe, 2-3 days before the Charlotte Major started. So with him, I'm still quite good friends. And yeah, with him, I regularly talk. But with other coaches, I didn't really talk yet.
So then after the event, you picked up a couple of things. You tried to change up the gameplay style a little bit, and it didn't quite work. So you didn't make that, big appearance at the next major. But you did then qualify for Jönköping, where I think the big thing for me was obviously the games against Wolves. The Direwolves against Wolves games. It felt a little bit like even though it wasn't a derby, it felt a bit like a derby. I think at that tournament, you're probably a little bit disappointed in some of the results because in most of the games and groups, the result was there to be had. You guys were playing pretty well. Just maybe a couple of tiny little things led to the games going the other way.
So I think we obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but when we went to the major, one of our players was in the military. So he didn't have any scrims with that for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks actually before the major. So he came in there and we had, I think, 1 day of scrims before that. So we kind of knew it's a bit complicated. I think in total we didn't have like 1 month of scrim with the full roster. So yeah, we still had high expectations. I think this time we really wanted to go playoffs, and I think we kind of knew we could do it. So yeah, it was a bit of a letdown, but I think behind the scenes many things happened that I think led to that, and that really like cleared our minds as a team, I think, to be like successful in the future and to qualify for SI. So I think in that aspect, even though the major itself was kind of disappointing, we really found out, okay, we are a team capable of beating some of the best teams internationally, not only regionally. And then we also learned what else do we need to change and what do we need to do now to like actually make it internationally.
Yeah. So you're leaving that event, you're preparing then for SI, and what can only kind of be described as a disaster hit.
Yeah.
You know, you lost a couple of players off the roster. There was the whole Reaps scenario, which you had all these people out with their little boards, it seemed like, on Twitter trying to work out what the hell was going on with Reaps. Before we talk into the miracle you guys performed, what actually did happen? Like, how did you guys go from having your 5 to all of a sudden a week and a half before you're supposed to play having only 2 players or 3 players listed on the roster? Like, what went on?
So during the major, the team decided we're gonna drop ED or bench him and replace him with Harambe. That was already like decided at that point. And then at that point, we felt like the 5 players are now okay. We're gonna easily make it to SI. We were believing that there's no other team that has a chance against us in APAC. So it was like a full surprise when he decided to like leave. Like we didn't really have any discussion or anything before that. He just said, "Okay, guys, I don't want to play anymore, and now you guys have to find a 5th." So yeah, I don't even know yet why, but I only know that he already knew beforehand, but didn't let us know. Like he knew a couple of weeks before that he's gonna leave, but then I don't know why he didn't tell us to at least help us time-wise to prepare for this change. So yeah, it was a big disappointment for the team. I think most of the players were like really sad and felt betrayed. So it was like kind of like a really shit moment, we can say, before the SI calls.
Yeah. So then you go into SI quals, the roster is announced, you've Harambe promoted to the active team, and then obviously you bring in Ray as well. And I think at that point, when I was looking through Twitter and I was looking through previews, a lot of people had written you off because Reaps was gone, because the changes that you made. They were like, yeah, Direwolves, if the roster was the same as it was at the major, yeah, backing them 100%, but now they kind of had maybe Fury ahead of you. They thought maybe Fnatic could go ahead and sneak in. There was a lot of talks about Scars as well as being a team that could maybe qualify. How did you pull off the miracle? Like, with so little time to prepare, how did you get the guys playing such good Siege and manage to run that gauntlet?
I mean, I think only the people that we only won because of Reaps are surprised. I think we as a team, we knew we are capable of this because it wasn't only about Reaps' performance, it was like everything we built around him. And I think that was still there. It doesn't just disappear. Now we just had to adapt the roles a bit, make sure that we have other players like Pika, Souffleur, Jackie, Ray, get these triple kills or 4Ks. And it was more like, we know we can do this. Let's just try our best. You know, how can I say? We only have one chance anyways. There's nothing to lose. And let's just try our best. That was our mindset. And we did pull it off by just doing some small changes, finding out on which maps are players capable of delivering what Reaps managed to do on every map. So instead of just putting one player in the entry role, we kind of switch around a bit the roles to find out, okay, Pika is really good on this map, Jackie on this map, Ray on this map. So we kind of switch around the roles a bit while still maintaining our old team setup, we can say, team's mindset behind the entry players.
And how tough was the weekend? Because you look at the amount of games, was it 6? There was 6 best of 3s on the first play day. Like, it was a long weekend for a lot of the players when you looked at the amount of games that they had to play. How did you keep the team motivated over the course of the weekend? Because you saw a lot of players from other teams complaining on Twitter about being constantly hungry, being tired. Like, how did you keep the guys motivated and ready to go when the games came around?
I think we are pretty used to this from APAC. Like, it's nothing too new, we can say. So we were kind of like prepared for it. We were like, yeah, there's probably gonna happen some shit with like the admins and whatever. So I think we don't take those parts so serious. We are just like, let's play, guys. Luckily, we didn't have to play the first day. So when we arrived the second day, we were full energized, mostly. So yeah.
And then, we'll go ahead.
Yeah, because we played the second, so first Fnatic played, so we could watch them, have some ranked, have some warm-up, so we didn't like feel too much of a pause between the 2 matches we played. So let's say we were a bit lucky in that aspect that it wasn't too long of a day for us between our actual 2 matches compared to the other teams.
Right, and then I want to talk about the team then now, going into SI. What's the feeling inside the camp? Like, are you guys all really excited to go? Do you know when, are your flights booked? Like, is there that kind of giddy excitedness, kind of, you get me, as you're getting ready to go to this event?
I think we are all really excited. Like, it's SI, it's like the biggest thing. It's like, I don't know, so much bigger than a major. So I think everyone is really excited, can't wait to go there. I think we got the email today, we're probably going to leave 1st or 2nd of February to Canada. So I think we're all excited. Now, as for the practice, a bit complicated, By the time we're going to reach SI, we're going to be like 1.5 months old as a roster. So now we are like just not worried, but like we are like, okay, this is the truth. We have to do our best in this 2 weeks of practice, I think 12 days of actual scrims. And yeah, I think we're excited. We have, again, low expectations as we can expect for a really new team, but we still want to at least make playoffs, as we now failed 2 times in a row, so the 3rd time should be it, where we can manage to go to at least for playoffs. And
well, I know I'm excited. I genuinely can't wait, because to me, I think everybody's been waiting for the APAC team to really have a go. We had obviously the hints of greatness from Damwon Kia at times. Elevate have had some pretty good moments. Onigiri's one of the most gifted players on a DMR I think I've ever seen. But this is why I want to talk about APAC as a region, though, because if we're being honest, APAC has had its struggles. EU's performed very well, NA's performed very well, and then LATAM went through this massive revolution, maybe just over 2 years ago. It's as if the coaching style changed in that region. They got more games going, they got more competitive practice, and they kind of took Siege by storm in 2021. So there was talk then at the start of this year saying, APAC, it was where LATAM was about 1.5 years ago. They've got so much talent, but the coaching is starting to improve. They're starting to adapt and get their play. But then it never really happened last year. We never really got the real kick in form in APAC. Why do you think APAC has struggled internationally compared to the other regions?
So I think, first of all, what I think compared to other regions, like you have NA, it's mainly USA and Canada. They can form teams together. Then you have EU. There is also quite easy to form some English-speaking teams. And then obviously LATAM is only Brazil. So APAC is not just one country now. It's like you have Japan, you have Korea, you have Australia, and now you have the Southeast Asian region, our region. So it's like every region, every actual nation, like Korea had their time, Japan had their time before. So that experience that they learned at the international events went like really transferred to the next region. So every time a new region goes there, we had to learn from completely scratch. We had to find out what it's like there. And then I also feel like every region has its own actual problems. You know, Japan has completely different issues than we would have in Southeast Asia. So I think that's one of the reasons that APAC struggles a lot is, yeah, we are, every time someone goes there, it's like, I feel like a new region. For example, this year, I think it was the Southeast Asian region, mostly representing APAC, being Furi, Elevate, and us. While last year it was mainly Korea with DWG and Sandbox. So like their experience that they learned last year were like barely known to us. So it's every time we start from zero. While us other teams like, let's say Brazil, they went there and they could like learn a lot last year and transfer it to the next teams for this year. So I think that's the one big thing. Obviously I can't speak for like most of the other regions, but I think one of the bigger problems for my region, Taiwan, Thailand, for us mainly, I would say, is that, you know, there's not much money in here, so like it's pretty hard to like fully commit to Rainbow Six. Then you also have the parents that don't support most of the players a lot, so they have to like sometimes get extra jobs, still go to uni. As for us, most of our players have to go to uni or work, and we can't really do it full time. So I think that's something this region struggles with, is like actually committing to a full-time career in this game and only being able to do it part-times.
So with the changes to the competitive calendar and the whole change to the structure this year, with Southeast Asia becoming its own distinct region, Japan becoming its own distinct region, Korea the same, is that going to be a benefit for these reasons? Like, is that going to allow more players to fully go into it full times? Will it help orgs back the players more? Like, what do you think the structural change is going to do for you guys?
So I think for APAC itself, this is like a good chance to like have consistent teams of each region attending international events. Oops. This way, you don't have like 2 years of Australian teams not achieving much internationally or not even reaching it. This way, you will have had one Southeast Asian team, one Oceanic team, at least a couple Japanese. So that brings some consistency in the international events that APAC teams go in. As for the monetary support, I think it depends a lot on the regions. I think it will be great for like Japan and Korea mainly. As for us more in the south, especially Southeast Asia, I think it will get worse, in my opinion, because less viewership, less people interested in this league. So I think it will be a bit complicated. It will also mean that most likely our league will be really stacked, because it means obviously less spots for us. We will have to compete for, I'm not sure, from what I know, it's going to be one spot, maybe two. So we have to compete with Elevate, Furi, maybe Gaming Gladiators, new roster. There are a couple of other teams. So it will be really stacked for us. So it will be a bit complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall for every other region mainly, I think it's a good change, especially for the other APAC regions.
Yeah, well, I think like most fans, and especially as a caster myself, I'm excited to see what the future holds. If it does lead to an improvement in the APAC region, I'm all for it. You're the same as me. You want every single region to go and really show what it's about. Like, I don't know how you feel as a coach, but CAG are a team I love watching. For different reasons. You just never know what they're going to do, but whether or not that gameplay is sustainable at the highest level for them, we'll kind of have to wait and see. But all in all, I'm excited. So as we're coming to the end of the interview, I have a couple more questions, quick ones I want to ask you. And it's obviously, as a coach, you have to put in a lot of work. Players do a lot of work in scrims, but as a coach, it's kind of different. You're watching how other teams play. You're watching how your team play. You're responsible for keeping the players' mindsets in the right place. You're responsible for, players' improvements, because I know from coaches that I've spoke to, you measure your success as a coach based on how your players improve and what they're able to do. And that's a lot of work. I said that's a lot of your time, a lot of VOD reviewing, and it's a lot of stress. how do you decompress, or what do you do in your spare time to keep your mind off of Siege and just to relax and have a bit of fun? Like, what are your hobbies outside the game?
So until recently, I still went to school, so I didn't really have much free time. So I think it wasn't really deconnecting from Siege. It was like just changing my focus from school to Rainbow, from Rainbow to school. So it was like kind of just switching around. And now that I'm finished with school, since I think 1 month or something, I don't really know what to do in free time. So I'm kind of bored. So I don't really do much in the free time, apart of meeting with friends, obviously,
Yeah.
sometimes. But I would say, as I did Rainbow Six as a hobby for most of my time, these last 2 years, I still see this game as a hobby, and it's a bit different than considering it as a job. So I don't really know how to answer this.
And is the time zone a struggle? Because obviously Southeast Asia is another couple of hours ahead again. And as you said, you'd to balance your school life with the Siege life as well. Has it been a problem for you personally with the time zone difference?
Yeah. So mostly when I finished school, I had to go home and they were already scrimming the first map. So it was like my whole day didn't end till 6, 7 after my work, after the scrims. So it was kind of long. And then when we had matches, it was usually in school time. So I kind of had to bunk school to attend the matches. But now that I'm free, it's quite alright. It's like I start at 12 p.m. and end at around 6, 7. So now I have the morning free and then the nights free. So I think I'm quite happy with that. I can still meet with my friends in the weekend at night compared to my players who usually don't end their day in the weekends until like 11, 12. So for them, it's a bit more harder to have a free life on the weekends.
Yeah. So then, final question. There's a lot of very good coaches in Siege. A lot of people have changed the game, made massive differences to how it's played. Who are the coaches that you look up to? Like, is there anyone that you admire with the way that they've, made changes to the game or the way that they've conducted themselves in their career?
I think it's quite difficult to say what the impact of that actual coach was into the team. So, you could say I really like FaZe, or we could say FaZe's coach is like really inspiring, but I don't actually know what he does. Does he actually like do anything game related, or is he just like let's say motivational coach? So it's quite difficult for me to actually say a specific coach, but I would definitely say probably the Shaz from G2. Like, you can't deny what he achieved. And then FaZe coach I really like, and so many to choose from. I would also say then CIG coach, but I don't know here again. Was it the coach who got this crazy play style going? Was it the players, or was it a combination of both? But I think these are the three teams and coaches that I get a lot of inspiration from.
Yeah. Well, look, what can I say? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Odin. I've enjoyed it. It's actually the first time I've had a proper sit-down recorded talk with anybody from the APAC region. So it's been good to have you guys. I'm absolutely delighted for you. Qualifying for SI, it's going to be a blast. I'll be traveling as a fan, so hopefully you guys make the playoffs and we'll be able to bump into each other in person. But honestly, best of luck. Massive congratulations. What you and your team has done, considering all the circumstances, considering, the fact that you haven't had a lot of time to practice as a 5. You deserve everything you guys get. I'm really happy for you. And best of luck at SI.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And viewers, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please give Odin and Direwolves a follow on all their socials to keep up to date with what is going on that side of things. And if you're enjoying the channel, make sure to give a like and a subscribe as well. But I've been Gibson. You guys have rated Odin. It's been a pleasure.
See you at SI, guys.
See you then.